Welcome back to the Jacob Wayne Show. Not to be dramatic, but I'm going to be doing some solo episodes for about a month. And here's the reason why. I needed to see if I could consistently do this podcast, releasing one episode a week on my own. I usually do an episode with my buddy Kellen or my buddy Dan, and they will be back on the podcast if this works out, but part of what the attempt is just seeing how comfortably I can do it on my own so I can always make sure that something's coming out. Sometimes our schedules don't sync up, like me and Dan's or me and Kellen's, and we end up just pushing it off, and then we don't get one done for the week. And that leaves you deprived of lovely episodes of the Jacob Wayne Show. So, once again, that's why I'm trying to do these solo and see if I enjoy it. If it's just like that rough, then I might have to put the podcast on an extended hiatus while I job hunt or wait for a better rhythm or way to do the podcast. I do enjoy doing it. It's just, when you're doing paintings or being a singer and bassist and promoter in a band and job hunting, all that, cooking for the house, it gets a little elaborate, and it, since this doesn't make me any money, which is not a problem, it also doesn't, help fund my life. So it would be one of the things that kind of goes to the wayside if something has to. And so that's what this is. Can I do this in a comfortable fashion and churn out stuff that you guys like to listen to? Of course, write us at thejacobwayneshow@gmail.com and let us know if you like these solo episodes, if you think you'd rather just wait for episodes where I can do them with Dan or with Kellen or whatever. And I'll try to curate to that. And if it ain't clicking, then it ain't clicking, and the show will go away. So, yeah, once again, not really dramatic. It's just a state of things. So with that, this is the first episode back after a while. And I suppose I will kind of go through the sections. And it might be a short episode, might be a long episode. That's another thing you could write me about, is letting me know if you like them a little shorter, like 30 minutes. It's like kind of a quick little bing, bang, boom. Bing, bang, boom. So with that, let's get rolling. I'll give you a quick little life update. I quit drinking at the beginning of the year. I am not permanently done drinking. The idea is to not drink at all this year. And then next year, try to reintroduce the special occasion drink. Now, what is the special occasion drink? Maybe a 6-pack on the Super Bowl. 2 whiskeys New Year's Eve. Long Island iced tea at a concert. Something like that. I'm not really sure what it's going to be, but next year I'm thinking of keeping it super limited to like 6 days that year. So like you get your Thanksgiving, your Christmas, Super Bowl, That's three. Maybe birthday. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. And essentially, what happens is, if I can't keep it together, have a drink, and then get right back on the no drinking train, then maybe I just need to be done drinking. It's the ultimate test of my ability to quit for a year, and then also see if I can be more disciplined about it in the future. Because 40 years old is not that far away. I will be 38 in August. So, yeah, I'm just trying to enjoy what little remnants of youth I still have. Is 38 even young on any level? I think it's still pretty young. Still get some zhuzh. Um, that being said, anything drinking related, I am enjoying better sleep. Being able to go to bed pretty consistently at 12. I still love to sleep in, so I'm like here and there still waking up at like 10 because I am in the job hunt self employed zone, so I don't have to be awake early. But what's nice is when I'm not drinking, I can wake up at 7:30 and be fine. I'll get a little tired later in the day like anybody else, but it's a lot easier to wake up, and that's nice. You might even be able to tell I've slimmed down in the face a little bit on the sides. Still got the belly. That's going to take a while because I guess that's another thing I've been doing with the drinking is the first month of not drinking, other than doing my 10,000 steps a day, which has been difficult because of how cold January's been. But that's all I'm doing. So I kind of wanted to see what my body does with no drinking, but like not adding anything else into it, like a healthy diet or working out. I don't have the worst diet ever, but definitely have been getting more of a sweet tooth because the beer's gone, and then eating pizza, a lot more bread lately. But that's also kind of like a wintry thing. So next month I will be reintroducing push-ups and intermittent fasting. Maybe I'll just do one because I was kind of curious on the month by month basis how much of a difference I feel. But yeah, maybe both isn't the worst thing ever. Just do intermittent fasting and push-ups. Start doing like weights in March. Yeah. Anyway, if you have any like little experiments or questions about the no drinking journey, feel free to write at the Jacob Wayne Show at Jake the Jacob Wayne Show at gmail.com. And I'll try your suggestions or respond to your emails or fill you in on anything you might be curious about. So with that, let's move right along to stuff that's going on with the band or with music. My friends in Bad Roommates, you can look them up on Spotify or other streaming services, have just released a new EP called Dragon Ass. And I was the person who painted the album art for them on that. And I was very proud to do that. It's a painting I really dig. It's a little chunky little bulldog looking dragon, kind of dragging his ass on the carpet. You know, so dragon ass, dragon, there you go. It's a good EP. I've only given it one playthrough, but it's songs I've heard consistently playing live with these guys, and they're just a fun, good punk rockin' time. So check that out. Dragon Ass, Draggin, by the Bad Roommates. Let's see if there's any other new releases. But I'll be honest with you while I'm looking this up. I haven't been listening to a ton of new music lately. It's been a lot of old school stuff, 70s and 60s, kind of specifically, kind of some old country. Been trying out that outlaw country, the old school stuff that wasn't all popified. Um, Lo-fi beats playlists, sleepy jazz playlists, like a lot of stuff like that. I haven't been zoning in on any particular artists lately, so maybe I'm missing some new releases that kind of fell through the cracks for me. But yeah, I'll try to get back up on top of that. Usually I do that with Kellen, but one thing that was standing out to me is that Kellen and I have pretty different listening tastes. We do have crossover here and there, but I was noticing during the music specific episodes, like, we're just kind of saying names at each other, like, who's that? What? And, well, what? Well, what's that? And, I don't know. Not that we won't do that in the future, but just realize that maybe on a weekly basis or almost even a monthly basis, I'm not sure how beneficial that is for you as a listener. Of course, one of those things you can email me about and we can go over it. New releases as far as this week, there was a new track from The Smile that is the side project of Tom York and Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead. The name of this song is Friend of a Friend. Only listened once with not very good speakers, so I'm not going to give too much feedback. Other than I would say that it wasn't necessarily clicking with me like the other two songs off of this next album coming out, it seems. And I do like them, but I really attached to the Smile album a little more than I am to these tracks. I think it was because they seemed a little more straightforward, and they're getting them more elaborate here, and it almost leads to an element of like wondering, like, well, why aren't these just Radiohead songs at this point? Like I said, I haven't listened too intently. Maybe it will bloom and reveal itself to me over time, and it'll really start clicking. So I do need to listen more. There's a new single from KMFDM called Let Go. It's very KMFDM, so that's the good thing, and perhaps sort of the bad thing is that there's nothing really new or innovative going on with this. It's KMFDM as you've grown to know them, but the only issue is that this track isn't really hitting like some of their other ones in terms of the mix. Like, there isn't the punch or the energy to it that I find in other KMFDM tracks or on other KMFDM albums. Another one I need to digest more, maybe once again. It'll grow on me, but so far the mix is the biggest thing in the way for me, kind of keeping me from loving it. But it's still fun. Somebody said in a comment on YouTube when they released it that it's almost like Sonic the Hedgehog music mixed with the heavier KMFDM thing, or like old school Nintendo music, which I dig, and I can hear it, but when that guitar is a little more chunkity and punchity, that's what I like out of KMFDM. One album I really need to find time to stroll around listening to or just lay on the couch and digest it is Folly Group's new album called Down There with an exclamation point. As far as I know, they've released a ton of EPs and random singles, and this is the first album in a while. Could be wrong there, but they're a group that came up on the old Spotify shuffle. I think they're based in the UK, and they're a lot of fun. Kind of got like that new wave post-punk 80s thing with a with a modern twist going on. Let's see if we can do a bio real quick. Excuse me, got the hiccups. Perfect for solo podcasting, right? Their about says, "What's new? Old power? Okay. Artsy." But now I can't tell you much about them. Just go check them out. Folly Group. That's Folly Group. New track from Slove. That's a artist that their album Le Danse came out in 2011. I loved. I discovered them after playing a gig with Arthur James up in Seattle, and it was just the music that came on after we played, and I've loved that album ever since. Another thing I really need to digest. Haven't even gotten around to listening to it. But electronic French dance music. So if you're into that, check it out. With that, not much on the music front. My band Gamma Pa recently recorded 5 new tracks. Maybe even, oh yeah, we did 6 actually. Re-recorded an older one. Some of these are older songs, but new versions. And they will make up our first album with a human drummer. Let's put it that way. I almost called it our first album, but we just released some of our old DIY tracks we did during the pandemic here at home. Just kind of put together all the songs that we're not really playing live anymore, and we're just not sure if we'll ever re-record them. Maybe we will down the line, but they are what they are, and it's a moment in time that we captured, and so that's technically our first album. So this will be number 2, but this is the one that's like actually us as a band. It feels, rather than little music duo of Shockey and I. I would say the Gamma Pa is Shockey and I. Switch out drummers here and there, and it would still be Gamma Pa, but if one of us left, it wouldn't be. So, yeah. I'm excited to release that and give you more details once it's all compiled and we figure out what it is, when it's coming out, what we're going to call it. But keep your eyes peeled and ears open for details on that. With Gamma Pa, we are also playing the Aggie Theater here in Fort Collins for the first time on Saturday. So I'll give you an update on that next week. That's a historic venue here in Fort Collins, so pretty big deal for us. It's a step up and in the right direction. With that, I believe the movie time thing is over. Do I have any video game stuff to talk about? Not much. Just that I've been playing Gunfire Reborn again. If you haven't played that, that's kind of a Chinese company, or a Chinese-made video game, first-person shooter, online with your buddies. It's kind of cartoony. You're either like a dog or like a sexy bunny or something like that, but you're shooting stuff up. It's a lot of fun. Been picking that up again. Been trying out the old Homeworld games. Not really clicking with me. They made me just want to go play StarCraft, which I've also been playing again. And been playing Final Fantasy IX again to kind of relax in the living room and just enjoy getting cozied up in the blanket and having the cat sit in my lap while I play a old nostalgic favorite. Playing Slay the Spire regularly, still, frustratingly so. And that is video games for you. While I'm pulling up movies, I gotta log in here, so I'll just use my phone for that, I guess. Politics. Have you been excited about me bringing that stuff up? Of course not. So, Trump won by a historic amount of points in the Iowa caucus. Democrats don't even start their primaries there anymore because, quite frankly, it doesn't really speak to the Democratic Party voting demographics. It's a very white state. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but kind of not fully representative of the country as a whole, but probably fairly fully representative of the Republican Party and their voting bloc. So, no surprise there. Trump is dancing between all his legal troubles, which are legitimate, and a party that still loves him, and seems like they're gonna just give him the nomination. So all I can say is I'm trying to ignore that stuff as best I can and participate where I need to this year because I'm trying not to drink. And I'll say it here, I'm sure I'll say it again in some capacity. If this country votes for Trump again, then I just don't even fucking know what to think. Like, it'll never shock me. After 2004 and Trump, or Bush winning a second term and then Trump winning in 2016, I'll never be shocked at the idiocy of the American public again. But there is a certain level where I'm like, really, they wouldn't do that again, would they? And if they do, then I guess this country just has to go through it. If they're gonna make dumb decisions, they have to deal with stupid shit, and and that's natural in human history. Plenty of wonderful countries out there in the world and in human history, and seems like they always go through these really fucking dumb patches because humans can be really fucking dumb. And believe me, Biden isn't a prize. Nothing I'm thrilled about, but you're voting for the administration, not the person, and Trump has surrounded himself with sycophants and dipshits, so I can't vote for his administration. It's not like they helped him do a good job, whereas I think the administration behind Biden helps him do a fairly decent job. There's been progress in areas, not as far as I'd like or as fast as I'd like, but there has been some. So people like having them neck and neck is just idiotic to me. Like, one is clearly better and still kind of sucks, but that's how much better he is than the absolute shit that is Donald Trump. So anyway, that's enough. I'll stop there. Let's get into movies. Let's just do the old breakdown and then maybe call it good. I don't have any news articles or news stories or emails to read, so we will do this and call it good. So let's start in January. First movie we watched was on January 4th, and that was The Holdovers, directed by Alexander Payne. Alexander Payne is the director of Sideways, Downsizing, a couple others, but this is, from what I gather, his most liked film in a while. It's up there with Sideways in a lot of people's esteem. Sideways, I feel like I need to watch again because when I first watched it, it did not appeal to me. I thought it was overhyped, a bit like, why do I give a shit story. But I was also young and in my 20s, and I don't think it was really for me. This, on the other hand, I'm a little bit older, have been a teacher, and so the dynamic between the gifted student and the grumpy old teacher and the cook at this New England prep school, I forget what school it was supposed to be. Was that maybe Princeton? This is like a hangout Christmas movie. They're all stuck at the campus while everybody else goes home for the holidays, and shenanigans ensue. It's has its moments of drama and gravitas, but also humor, and I think it rides that line really well. And I gave it 5 stars out of 5, and I loved it. I think I'm gonna be watching it every holiday season from here on out. Sure, I'll miss a year here and there, but it's a really good movie, and just the scripts and the writing is probably my favorite. It's a bit elevated. It's not the most natural dialogue. It's definitely like indulgent in its intellectualism, but not in a bad way. And I really loved it, so I highly recommend it, and I hope it wins some Oscars. That's The Holdovers by Alexander Payne, and Paul Giamatti is wonderful in it. And his co-stars, let's remember their names, Dominic Sessa and Divine Joy Randolph, hold their own with Paul Giamatti. Like, they're all great. I wish they could each get an award for their acting. So that was The Holdovers. The next day, since it was silly Thursday night movie watching, we watched The Flintstones for nostalgia and like, what's that? How does that movie hold up? Kind of thing. And it does not hold up. It is insane. But that is also what makes it kind of awesome, is because it is a really weird snapshot of a 90s movie where they're trying to revive an old television show, use the IP, and it's just an homage to that. And it's the tail end of practical effects intermixing with CGI. This was a hit when it came out, and the whole cast, I mean, really buys into it. It's John Goodman, Elizabeth Perkins, Rick Moranis, Rosie O'Donnell, Kyle MacLachlan, Halle Berry, Elizabeth Taylor. They're all here for it. Oh, and the B-52s show up in it, and they're called the BC-52s. There's all kinds of prehistoric, weird little Flintstone-y type jokes, and everything is written on a rock, and bing bang boom, lots of slapstick and people getting bonked in the head. But it's weird enough that it's like, it's not just a groan fest of like, all this slapstick. It's very, and I mean, that's in there, that's part of the ingredients, but it really is just fucking insane. And I was like, I can't believe this exists. And so the older it gets, the even more awesome it'll be, and how odd and dated and sexual it is. It's bizarre. So I think I gave that, what did I give that? 2 stars out of 5. I don't think it's a very well made movie, well written or anything like that. But I like it. And that's mostly because of the acting, I think. People like really try to buy into it and pull it off. So then we went a few days without watching anything, and we got on to The Men Who Stare at Goats. But I have to use the restroom, so I will be right back. I'm back from peeing. So, after a few days, after watching The Flintstones, we watched The Men Who Stare at Goats. This is directed by Grant Heslov, who directed Par 6 and Catch 22. I think he's known more as a producer, but he happened to direct this one, and it's very wannabe Coen Brothers. Has George Clooney, let's see here, brain fart, Jeff Bridges, Ewan McGregor, Kevin Spacey, Robert Patrick, Stephen Lang, Stephen Root, Nick Offerman. I mean, a lot of good stuff. And I really love this movie. It's not on par with the Coen Brothers movie, but I still give it 5 stars. Because it's a very fun, oddball little romp. It's about the sort of like an offshoot of the MK Ultra experiments, but like the New Earth defense unit in the army, where they're basically trying all the new age stuff to like how to fight wars with peace is sort of the idea. Ewan McGregor meets one of these guys and learns about it in Iraq during the Iraq War. And the whole premise is way more of this story is true than you would believe. So obviously that's kind of convenient. They can take a journalistic story, which I think that is what this comes from, and sort of turn it into their own little thing and pick and choose what's true. But and that's all they have to say is more of this is true than you would believe, and just kind of leave it at that. I don't think it's super important to wonder what actually happened or is true or not, because that's part of the fun of this is George Clooney is so convinced of all this stuff, and yet he seems like just an arrogant ass the whole movie, but charmingly so. He's this is like maybe one of my favorite George Clooney roles. He just you want to believe him, but he's also just seems like so full of shit. Jeff Bridges is awesome in it, playing a version of the dude, but an awesome one. And Ewan McGregor plays the everyman getting thrown into this, not only into the middle of the Iraq War, but this whole weird New Earth special unit or whatever it is. Um, I'd say if you like offbeat, almost kind of dark humor, there's definitely dark moments. Like they do these things where it's like somebody's about to shoot a kitten and it's just the cutest thing you could think of and just cuts away. And they like the kitten's fine, but you're like it's dark but in a very playfully dark sort of way. The Men Who Stare at Goats, highly recommend it. 5 stars. Then I watched The Blues Brothers for the very first time. This is a classic. Many people love it. For most of the movie, I was not getting it. I was trying to piece it together like, is it all the cameos like Aretha Franklin and Ray Charles? Is like that what? It's kind of like a musical. Is that what people are loving about this? Because it wasn't particularly funny to me. I don't think it was ever that funny. But I rarely write up a review because I usually just do reviews in this, but I wrote that From Carrie Fisher in the Sewer on is what bumped this up a star for me. So I rated this 4 stars out of 5. Before that, I knew it was well crafted enough for 3 stars, but wasn't really enjoying it. So if you've seen the movie, this is where I wonder about spoilers or not, but let's just say once Carrie Fisher shows up in the sewer, she's been in the movie earlier, but she finally reveals who she is and why she's doing what she's doing. From that moment forward, it turns into like a spectacle. Um, Giant, crazy car chase with stunts and just like how did they film that? Like a lot of really fun camera work and setting up stunts and all this other stuff that really elevates it. And that's what made me and Neil when we were watching this like, oh, okay, this is why people must love this movie is because all the beginning stuff is pretty cool, and especially if you saw it when it came out, you'd be more into the cameos and you wouldn't mind the slower pace. But when it goes up that extra notch, it's like, wow, this is quite the feat in terms of filmmaking. Do I love it? No. I, as I said to the fellas when I was watching it, I would sit down and watch the rest of the movie if I'm sitting down right when Carrie Russell, or not Carrie Russell, Carrie Fisher shows up in the sewer till the end. I'll sit down in a wet towel and air dry while I finish the movie. But if it's at the beginning of the movie, I'll probably change it. I'm not that into it. So, we then, Dan and I have been trying to watch these Oscar movies. And I think him and I had sort of split opinions on this one, but he'll come on when we're getting closer to the Oscars if this gets nominated and kind of discuss it then. But the movie we watched is Saltburn, came out last year, 2023, directed by Emerald Fennell, who has done three movies now. One is called Careful How You Go, haven't seen it. Saw Promising Young Woman and thought it was kind of trash. Not a good movie. A lot of style and trying to hit people's triggers without actually having anything to say. It's like trying to be triggering hot take for the sake of being a triggering hot take type of movie. Saltburn, I think, also plays around with trying to trigger people and kind of gross out gags and oh my gosh, that's not okay stuff. But it does it better. It's a lot more entertaining. I was intrigued by it. The acting's great, cinematography's great. I don't know if I'll ever watch it again. I liked the first experience. Maybe I'll, and as I was saying with my friend Carly, maybe this will grow on me and I'll like it more and more, especially as it ages. But as of right now, there's not a lot of depth to it, and I don't think movies have to have depth. It can be just style, or just look at this actor play this wild character, and that's what you're watching. But yeah, I maybe it's too long to be enjoyed on a rewatch a lot, but yeah, was entertaining, was funny at moments, was like definitely like, oh god, they're doing that like consistently throughout the whole thing. And definitely going to be continuing to keep an eye on Barry Keoghan, however you say his last name. Played the Joker in a cutscene in The Batman. Was in that Marvel's movie The Eternals, which everybody seems to want to wipe under the rug now, but he did an okay job in that. My favorite role of his was his role in The Banshees of Inisherin, where he played a lovable loser, whereas in other things he's kind of a creep. He's kind of a creep in that too, but a lot more lovable. Rosamund Pike was pretty great. I hadn't seen her in anything that stood out to me since Gone Girl. This isn't as good as her role in Gone Girl, but very good. Richard E. Grant was funny in his role. Jacob Elordi was engaging. I was entertained by him. I'm interested to see him in other stuff. And yeah, good movie. Just don't know if it was for me, and it's definitely not for everybody. And I am curious to see how it ages. See if I'll like it more over time. Gave it 4 stars out of 5. And that's just recognition of how well made it is. I think if it was my personal like rating, it would be at 3 stars. But there's too much good stuff going on in it to give it less than 4. We then, for the next silly Thursday night movie, watched Escape from LA. We knocked another movie off the John Carpenter list that I hadn't seen. I don't believe Dan had seen it either, but our buddies Shockey and Neil like it more than Escape from New York. Now, when they told me this, I was shocked because Escape from New York has quite the reputation, and so does Escape from LA for not necessarily the best reasons. So I was like, really? You like it more? Okay. Now, I will say this. I need to watch Escape from New York again now because I kind of loved Escape from LA. Is it a great movie in terms of technical prowess, skill, good story? No. It's a weird, silly B movie romp that does not take itself seriously. and maybe even intentionally sort of does bad stuff, like weird, bizarre action setup and shitty CGI and all this stuff, and yet it's a lot of fun. Steve Buscemi chews the scenery every time he shows up. The Pam Grier role is like, oh my god, they wouldn't do that anymore these days. And yet it wasn't a negative thing. It was just like, oh, that was kind of attempting to do this trans character back in the 90s. And I still think she was pretty badass. So it's ridiculous. It's absurd. The soundtrack is very new metally techno Rob Zombie rock from the 90s, which I'm a sucker for. So the soundtrack was pretty great for me. Um, I gave it 4 stars. As a film, maybe as on so kind of the flip of the last one, Saltburn. Maybe it deserves 2 stars for how well put together it is or the thought put into it. But I don't know. It's like I can't help but think that it's John Carpenter and Kurt Russell trying to be like winking and nodding at the camera, like we're intentionally doing this way. So if that's the case, 4 stars, maybe even you could argue 5 if it was based on director's intention. I just have to know if he intended it to be this silly and borderline garbage. So we'll move on to the last 2 movies. Let me check something real quick. Okay. So then I showed Dan the Suspiria remake. And this is a movie I love, and I think he was having a hard time getting past it being a remake, which is understandable and fair, but in my opinion, this remake is different enough from the original that I can enjoy both equally. And for, like they're just totally different stories in a way while having the same plot, if that makes sense. And different coloration, different music, different tonality, even. Like, it's a great movie. It's a bit overlong. I think if you trimmed it up, it would be more well regarded by people. But I've said this before, I'll say it again. Their ability to make dancing as creepy as they do in this movie is like almost the majority of what I love about it. It has a Tom York score, creepy witch dancing, Tilda Swinton playing 3 different roles, going ham. And I said this to Dan while we were watching it, is I like everything about this movie. The cinematography, the setting, like the shots of West End, East Germany. Um, but none of it necessarily connects cohesively. It's like, why is it Tom York over the top of Tilda Swinton playing an old man in East Germany? But there's like this, but that's a story that's not even necessarily attached to this dancing school that's a coven of witches. It's all disjointed, but I think that's part of why I love about it. Is it is very weird and strange and very art house in that way, where it's like, here you go, make of it what you will. And there's a lot of awesome imagery and moments that like delve into like, holy shit, like this is like B movie insanity, like something you'd almost see in like a an 80s B movie horror. But then it goes all art house, like it has everything. And is it jumbled and messy? Yeah, but it's 5 stars out of 5 for me. I love it. There's like not a lot of movies that I can think of that are like it. There's movies that have parts of this, but not the whole. And the hole is a mess, but I love that messy hole. You can quote me on that. Last movie, and this is what I was looking for, is on Sundays we've been watching the Star Trek movies. Oh, and that is something I need to put in here. Um, let's just do a whole episode of Star Trek once we're done with all of them. And we'll do that with Dan. Sound good? We watched Star Trek The Voyage Home last Sunday, and I'm just noticing I didn't log Star Trek The Search for Spock. And I don't even know if I logged The Wrath of Khan. Oh, I did. But that was back in December 17th, and we ain't even going to go back and mess with that month anymore. It's too far gone. So, all I will say, though, as you prep yourself for the Star Trek episode, is I've really enjoyed all of them. They vary wildly in tone and quality, budget, intention, but every single one of them's been a fun ride, and I can't wait to watch the rest of them. That's essentially where I'm at with those. I think also I'm definitely at an age where I'm way more willing to embrace every single one of them for what they are. Like, I'll definitely say that the voyage home is a little whackety schmackety do. Like, okay, that's the premise. But I loved it. And if I was in my 20s, I'd probably give it shit. Because it's like, that's not cool, it's not badass. What about the lore? Like, whatever. And now I'm just like, awesome. What a weird choice. And that's all I'll say. We'll break it down in a future Star Trek specific episode. So that's movies. TV shows. Anything there, real quick? Showing my roommate Steve the tail end of Sopranos, which he's never watched. We just watched the episode where Adriana and Tony almost hook up, but then get into a car accident, and Christopher freaks out. Some of the questions Steve's been asking just gets me super excited to watch the rest of the show again. And it is pretty fun to be able to just jump in right there. After this watch through of just the tail end of the series, I had watched the whole thing with my other roommate Shaki a couple years back, so I need to give it about 10 years rest, and then I'll probably do a whole rewatch again. Maybe longer, but 10 years sounds legit. I love that show. It's easily top 5 of all time, and every time I revisit it, it's funnier, it's more intriguing, more interesting. I just love it. As far as new stuff goes, I've really been way more into movies over the last year, if not more. I'm a lot less willing to engage with new TV. And that's too bad. Maybe that's on my end. That's my fault. But I just started the new season of True Detective. Never watched season 2 or season 3 because that seemed to be the general consensus is they're nowhere near as good as the first season, so don't even bother. They don't have the creepy, supernatural-esque element that the first season had, and they're just kind of more standard detective-y stuff. I know the third season's more well-regarded than the second, but this one is obviously somewhat of a soft reboot, more so in the sense of let's try to get back to the quality of the first season type of thing while still doing something new and fresh. I think I even heard somewhere that this was a show that was going to go under another title, but they thought it could fit the True Detective thing, so they decided to go with that in order to help promote it. Which, if that's the case, it's the way True Detective functions. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's Jodie Foster playing a detective, and I mean, ever since she played Clarice Starling. I think people are pretty down to see her in a role like that. I've only watched one episode, but good lord, she's an asshole. But she's doing a good job with the role. The character is an asshole. So, and then the newcomer. Let's find that out real quick, because she's holding her own in the first episode, and definitely the most interesting character so far to me. Jodie Foster's kind of standard, like, okay, cool, I'm gonna be following that character and I care. But this new one is kind of more intriguing, and maybe it's because she's an actress I hadn't seen before. But yeah, it just kind of drew me in a lot. Just curiosity wise. Callie Reese. She is an American professional boxer and actress. She is a former world champion in 2 weight classes, having held the WBC female middleweight title in 2016 and the WBA, WBO, and IBO female light welterweight titles between 2020 and 2022. So how about that? That's why she's a tough badass in this show. Isa Lopez serves as the showrunner, writer, and director. It is the first season without Pizzolato as the showrunner or writer, but he still serves as an executive producer. And for those that don't know or forgot, first season was directed all by Cary Fukunaga, written by him, and that's part of what made that so awesome. So the first episode is a lot of setup. Nothing major happens. Definitely enough intriguing things happen to keep you on the hook and wait to see what happens. So, that is all the media I have consumed this week. Wish me luck on continuing not to drink. I'm definitely doing as my comedian... Oh, not my comedian, but the comedian I love, Greg Fitzsimmons, says he's California sober. So I'm California sober, having some edibles here and there, maybe a microdose of mushrooms here and there, but very low key, very simple, not partying hard, just not cold dead sober, because I live in Colorado, which is snowy California for all you red states. I think that's it. I'm going to wrap it up right here, and I'm going to start trying to introduce some movie news stuff, but I need to compile notes a little better so I can go over that and not be stumbling over myself. Once again, any feedback, suggestions, ideas, things you'd like to share with me, questions you'd like to ask, write me at thejacobwayneshow@gmail.com. And please support me in this new recording solo endeavor, because it will be that a lot more often than it has been in the past. And let's see if we can make this a thing. For now, ta-ta! Thank you for listening to The Jacob Wayne Show. If you would like to contact us, please write us at thejacobwayneshow@gmail.com. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. Simply search The Jacob Wayne Show and it should pop right up. Make sure you like and subscribe and leave a review and share this podcast with your friends. Please write us. It helps add content to the show and makes the show even better for you, the listener. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to the show.